Hey guys, tonight we drift into a colder world, a darker time, long before thermometers and antibiotics, when even a simple cough could spell the end. We're heading back to the year 873 AD, into the raw, wind-lashed land of the Norse, where winter is long and medicine is more myth than cure. If you've ever been grateful for a warm bed and a dose of paracetamol, this story might just remind you why. Before we get started, take a second to hit the like button and subscribe, only if you're really enjoying the content I share here. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing how far this little community reaches. Now, dim the lights, let your breathing slow, and let's step softly into the smoke-thick hush of a Viking longhouse, where fever has settled in your bones like an unwelcome guest. You wake to the sound of coughing, not just yours, though your chest crackles like dry thatch on fire, but others too up and down the hall. A rasping chorus of sickness stirring beneath woolen cloaks and straw bedding. The air is thick with smoke from last night's fire, trapped under the low beam of the thatched roof. There's no chimney, just a smoke hole that barely breathes in the frozen morning air. Your throat burns with every inhale, your eyes sting, and your forehead is hot, slick with sweat, even as your fingers feel like carved bone. You try to move, but your joints protest. Your limbs are wrapped in furs that smell of old goat and damp wool, their weight a comfort and a prison all at once. The fever grips you tightly today, tighter than yesterday. Your dreams had been strange, full of flickering shapes and whispers in Old Norse. You think you saw your grandmother. Or maybe it was the vulva, the seer woman who spat runes onto ash and said your path was fogged by the gods. She said many things, none of them particularly comforting. A low groan sounds nearby. Across the hall, a thrall, one of the slaves brought from a raid on the Irish coast, pulls her child closer, shushing his cough into the furs. Everyone is sick, the strong and the small alike. You hear your younger brother's ragged breath just a few paces away. He hasn't eaten since the moon turned. You remember his lips yesterday, cracked and blue as he tried to drink from the shared wooden bowl of water. The water was cold, yes, but it might have carried the sickness too. Nothing is certain anymore. The fire in the central hearth has long since turned to glowing coals. It gives no heat now, just a faint orange light that flickers against the wooden ribs of the house. Shadows dance on the rough-hewn walls. You can make out the carved serpent heads on the end posts, meant to ward off spirits. Today they look more like watchers, quiet and cruel. Even the gods have gone silent in this place. Above you the roof groans with snow. You can feel the cold pressing through the turf-covered walls, seeping in like an old debt being collected. Outside, somewhere beyond the drifted snowbanks, the world continues, men chopping wood, the smith hammering iron with slow, steady clangs, women fetching water from the frozen stream, breaking the ice with poles. But inside this longhouse, it is another world entirely. Quieter, slower, sicker. Someone moves past your sleeping mat, their bare feet whispering against the rushes, laid across the dirt floor. A bowl of hot broth is set near your head. You smell boiled onion, maybe a hint of dried fish. No salt? Salt is for the jarls, the rich. Your family traded what little they had last season for a pouch of dried herbs, from the wise woman 2 villages over, feverwort and marshmallow root, meant to ease the burning. You don't know if it helped. Most of the village still fell ill after the early thaw brought rats into the grain stores. You manage to sit up barely, your vision spinning like storm clouds over the fjord. The heat in your body is wrong. It doesn't warm, it sears. You remember your father's words last week, as he helped bury the neighbor's daughter. If the fever climbs too high, the soul flees through the mouth. You've been breathing through yours all night, desperate for air. Someone says your name. It's your older sister, pale and red-eyed, a damp cloth in one hand. She presses it to your forehead and mutters a prayer under her breath. Not to Odin or Thor, those gods are for war and storms. She prays to Air, the healing goddess. You don't know if Air listens anymore. The vulva said she only comes to those who still give offerings. Your family hasn't had mead or apples for the altar in months. Your sister tells you to drink. You obey. The broth is warm but sour. It scratches your throat on the way down. Still it helps. A little. Enough. She leaves the cloth resting on your brow, whispers that she'll come back later with more herbs if the snow lets up. She has to tend to your brother now. He's worse, she says. His skin has turned blotchy. You don't ask what color. The longhouse quiets again. You lie back. Your body aches with the weight of its own illness. Your skin is damp. Your hair is sticky. Your chest feels like a collapsed forge, but still you listen to the murmurs, to the coughing, to the soft scrape of wood against stone as someone stirs the coals. This is how the day begins. Fevered, fogged, flickering, you close your eyes, not to sleep, but to drift, into memory, into prayer, into places beyond this reeking smoke and sickness. Somewhere in the next village, the vulva chants under the moon. Somewhere on the coast, the waves crash against cold black rocks. Somewhere far away, there are warm beds and gentle hands and bowls of clean water. But not here. Not in the year 873. Not in the Viking longhouse gripped by fever. This is where you are now, and the day has only just begun. Time passes in strange ways when your body burns with sickness. It doesn't move forward. It lingers. Like smoke trapped beneath a thatch roof, thick and stifling. By the time the pale light of midday filters through the open door flap, you're not sure whether it's a new day nor the same one stretching endlessly. The fire has been fed again. A thin curl of smoke rises above the coals and winds through the longhouse. You can smell pine wood, faint and bitter. It's better than the scent of rot that's begun to cling to the rushes near the back wall where two of the elderly have been lying for days. They don't stir much now. One hasn't moved since the night your fever first began. No one says it aloud, but you all know. Her spirit is gone. Only the body remains. No one has the strength to dig the frozen ground yet. You shift inch by inch to a seated position again. It feels like climbing a mountain inside your skin. Your muscles shake from the effort. Sweat trickles down your temple despite the cold. The broth from earlier sits in your stomach like a stone, unmoving. You haven't vomited yet. Others have. You can still hear the retching from near the rear posts, where the children sleep. Across the hearth, someone stirs a clay pot hung over the fire. It's your mother's cousin, Inga. Her back is hunched, her hands red from cold and constant labor. She's boiling a mix of herbs again. Feverfew, yarrow, dried root scraps stored in a cloth pouch beside the wall. You remember the pouch well. It once held coins from a raid in the east. Now it's a container for hope. Inga murmurs to herself. Not prayer, not words. Just a sound, a rhythm. She adds a few drops of something dark from a carved horn bottle. Elderbark extract, maybe. She says it calms the burning. You don't know if it's true, but no one argues, not anymore. She moves carefully, slowly, pouring some into a wooden bowl and carrying it to the sickest child near the wall. The child doesn't lift his head, just parts cracked lips and drinks in a trembling, instinctive way. You hear a rasp near your side. Your younger brother has stirred. His breath is wet and shallow. He opens his eyes for a moment. just long enough to meet yours. There's a flicker of recognition there, relief, or fear, it's hard to say. Then he slips back into a daze, murmuring the name of your father under his breath. Your father is still in the hills, hunting. He left before the fever came, before the snow thickened into silence. He doesn't know the longhouse is now a house of plague. You press a hand to your brother's forehead. It's too hot. You whisper the names of the gods you remember. Freya for love, Air for healing, Frigg for mercy. You don't know which one listens, if any. You'd even pray to Loki now if it meant saving your brother. Mischief is nothing compared to death. Outside, voices rise. The door opens briefly, letting in a blast of wind and a man with frost clinging to his beard. It's one of the neighboring farmers. He brings a basket of smoked fish and hard bread wrapped in linen, a gift, a trade, a silent offering. No one wants to speak here anymore. Words take breath, and breath spreads the sickness. The visitor looks around the room with guarded eyes. He doesn't step further inside than the threshold. He keeps his hand over his mouth. He nods to Inga, sets the basket down near the door, and leaves just as quickly. You don't blame him. Someone stirs near the far side of the longhouse. A thrall woman, older than most, picks up a broom of bundled straw and begins sweeping gently. It's not about cleanliness, it's about rhythm, distraction, something to do. Her movements are slow, circular, and she hums as she works. A lullaby from her homeland, maybe. Somewhere far from the cold fjords. Somewhere that isn't a fever-struck home, wrapped in despair. You try to drink again. The wooden cup nearby still holds the herb water your sister left. It's lukewarm now, bitter as sorrow. You sip, cough, and hold it down. Every small victory is a mountain climbed. In the corner, a child begins crying, high-pitched, sharp. Her mother holds her close, murmuring into her ear, rocking her against her chest. The cries grow quieter, but not because of comfort, because the child's strength is fading. You've heard that sound too often this week. The sound of a throat that no longer wants to fight. The day presses on, not with warmth or light, but with weight. The air is too thick. The smells of sickness, of sweat, of damp wood and boiled herbs, of urine and burnt meat. They fill your nose. They mark your skin. You don't know when you last bathed. No one does. There's no time, no will. There's only the waiting. Will the fever break? Will the body win? You think of the village healer, the vulva. She has not returned. She came the first day the fever arrived, traced runes in ash and chicken blood, and said the sickness was sent by angry land spirits. She warned not to bury the sick near the sacred grove. She burned herbs and chanted into the fire. But then she left. Said the spirits did not want her there. She hasn't returned. The shadows shift. The door opens again. This time, your sister is back. Her cheeks red from the cold, eyes tired. She's carrying a bundle of twigs tied with wool string. Sprigs of juniper, pine, dried berries. She's been to the woods. She kneels by the fire and adds them to the pot, muttering thanks to the forest for sharing what little it had. She touches your forehead again. Her fingers are cool. Her eyes study yours. She doesn't say you look worse, but you know you do. She just nods and tells you to rest. She doesn't know what else to say. None of you do. Outside, the sun is sinking. But inside the longhouse, there's no difference between night and day. Only breath and stillness. And the hope that maybe, just maybe, your next one won't be your last. Night falls, though no one calls it that. It simply arrives like fog, like silence, like fever. The door flap hasn't opened in hours. The last time it did, it groaned like an old tree, and the wind that swept in nearly put out the fire. Now the coals glow low again, pulsing softly in the darkness, like the heartbeat of a dying animal. The longhouse is quieter than it's been all day. The coughing has slowed, not because it's better, because those who can cough still have the strength to do so. The others? They lie still, motionless under hides and woven wool. You hear your brother's breath, shallow and wheezy, beside you. Every few minutes you check that it's still there. You lie flat now, staring up at the ceiling beams, where dried herbs and fish once hung. Most of it is gone now, eaten, burned, boiled for healing. What remains are spiderwebs and soot stains and one bundle of dried mushrooms that no one dares touch. You don't know what kind they are. Hallucinogenic, maybe, or poisonous, or both, but they stay, just in case. Your body feels cold now, though your forehead still glistens with sweat. It's a different cold, not the wind against skin cold of winter, a deeper cold, the kind that lives inside your bones and whispers of endings. Your fingers are stiff. You wiggle them just to know you can. It's hard. A low mutter comes from across the fire. The old thrall woman is awake again, humming softly as she moves from mat to mat. She carries a damp cloth and a wooden ladle, offering sips of herb water to anyone who can swallow. Her own cough barks through the silence, but she doesn't stop. You see her lean over your brother. She brushes his hair back, holds his jaw gently, pours a small amount into his mouth. He swallows. You hear it. Then he coughs, sharp, painful, but he's still here. You're next. She kneels beside you. Her eyes are small, dark, rimmed in red. She doesn't speak. She presses the cloth to your forehead. It's cold and smells of juniper. You want to thank her, but your mouth is dry. Your lips crack when you try. She sees this, dabs a bit of moisture onto them with her fingers. You feel like a child again, helpless in someone else's hands. From the dark corner where the seer used to sit, a whisper rises. Not a voice, a sound, the wind, but it sounds like a voice. And for a moment you think maybe the gods really are listening. Maybe they're here, walking the beams above your head, waiting to see who survives this night. You hear someone crying softly. Not a child, a woman. Maybe your neighbor whose daughter hasn't stirred since the sun went down. No one interrupts. Grief is allowed here, but quietly. Always quietly. Too much noise wakes the dead, or worse, invites them to stay. Your sister returns to your side. She lies down next to you, her hand wrapping around yours. Her skin is dry and cold. She whispers that the fever will pass soon, for both of you. She says it like a prayer, not a promise. You know what she means. Either it breaks, or you do. You drift in and out of sleep. Dreams and fever blend together. You see the fjord frozen over. You see ships beneath the ice, their sails torn and still. You see your mother's face, though she's been gone 3 winters now. You see the vulva again, her mouth moving but no words coming. Only the taste of ash. You wake again sometime later. The longhouse is still quiet, a strange quiet, too still. The fire is barely aglow now, no one moves. You try to call out, but only a whisper escapes. Your sister stirs. She's awake too. She looks at you, nods. She felt it too. Someone is missing. You both know without speaking. You sit up, though your body resists. You see the shape near the rear post, the girl with the blotchy skin. She's gone. Her mother sits beside her, rocking slightly. Not sobbing, just rocking. That's all there is left to do. You bow your head, not from belief but from respect. One more gone, one less breath in the dark. The thrall woman covers the child's face with a linen square. A prayer is whispered. Odin maybe, or air, or just a name, repeated over and over. You feel your chest tighten, not just from illness, from fear. It's always this way. Each night claims another. The fever doesn't sleep, it doesn't tire, it simply chooses and waits. You lie back down, slower this time. The coals are nearly black. You pull the furs tighter around your shoulders, even as your skin feels like it burns from within. You clutch your sister's hand harder. She squeezes back. You whisper, "Tomorrow?" She whispers, "Maybe." The longhouse breathes as one now, a dozen chests rising and falling, some slowly, some not at all. You close your eyes again. You feel the cold settling deeper, and you hope, quietly, to see the morning. You wake, but you're not sure how much time has passed. The fire is lit again. That's the first sign. Someone, probably your sister, rose before dawn to build it back up. The scent of wood smoke clings to the air like a familiar companion, curling gently in the stillness of morning. The warmth of the hearth hasn't reached your limbs yet, but the light it casts is soothing. A low orange glow dancing against the longhouse's timber ribs like shadows of remembered ancestors. Outside, you hear the soft crunch of snow under boots, a faint ringing of iron on iron. The forge is alive again. That means the blacksmith's family still lives. You take comfort in that. Every survival is a quiet victory now, a sign that the fever hasn't claimed everyone. Not yet. Your throat is raw, your breath sounds better, less rasping, less cracked, but your limbs still ache like they're filled with cold mud. When you try to sit up, you wince. The muscles in your back rebel, and you have to pause halfway through the motion, but eventually with trembling arms and clenched teeth, you manage. It's not graceful, but it's done. That, in itself, feels like defiance. The longhouse looks much the same as before, except there's a space now, an empty mat. The girl from last night is gone. You look to the corner where her mother once sat. She is there no longer. Her grief, her body, both moved to another place, maybe helping dig the grave now, maybe just walking through snow to escape the silence that lingered after her daughter's last breath. Your sister approaches. She sets down a bowl near your side, not broth, not herbs, just warm water with ash from the fire, an old ritual drink meant to draw out what poisons the body. You sip slowly, letting the bitterness coat your tongue. It tastes like soot and sorrow, but it's warm, and it doesn't hurt to swallow. That alone feels like a miracle. She wraps another cloth around your shoulders. It's scratchy, but heavy and clean. She doesn't speak much today. Her eyes are red-rimmed, her mouth set in that flat, quiet way you've seen before, when the livestock died, when the floods came 2 springs ago. It's the look of someone who's learned how to mourn while moving. You ask her, barely above a whisper, "How many?" She doesn't answer at first. Just sits beside you, wraps her fingers around the wooden ladle, and stirs the pot hanging above the hearth. A bundle of juniper and wormwood floats on the surface, releasing a bitter, medicinal scent. There's something oddly soothing about the smoke it produces, curling toward the roof beams like a prayer, without words. Finally, she says, 3 last night. 1 at dawn. 4 gone since yesterday. You feel a weight settle into your gut that's heavier than the fever, heavier than the furs around your shoulders. These aren't numbers, they're neighbors. Names you know, faces you passed every day walking the snow paths. One of them carved your walking stick, another used to give you smoked meat from her traps each winter. The world feels smaller now, and not in a comforting way. You glance around the room. The old thrall woman still hums as she wipes the face of an unconscious elder. Someone else's sister scrubs a child's lips with a damp cloth. Everyone does what they can in quiet turns. No shouting, no panic. The energy required for those things has long been spent. What remains is endurance. Across the longhouse, Inga stands and begins gathering cloths. burial cloths, strips of linen and wool, frayed at the ends. They're kept in a wooden chest near the hearth, along with what few coins and trinkets the dead might take with them into the earth. She does it with care. She does it with silence. She has done it before. The wind howls against the walls. Snow brushes against the sides of the house like fingers, soft, then firm, then still. The sun is rising higher, but its light feels pale, weak. There is no warmth in it. Just a silver hue that makes everything look washed out, like old memories painted on rough wood. The burial party begins to gather. Not many can go, not in this cold, not when so many are still sick. Your sister offers to go, and you see the hesitation in her eyes. She doesn't want to leave you, but she must. It is her turn. Your family has not helped with the burial yet, and that alone has begun to draw quiet eyes. She ties her cloak, pulls the hood tight, and leaves you with the promise she'll return before dark. You nod, not because you feel strong, but because you want her to believe you do. And then you're alone. Not truly, of course. The longhouse still breathes around you. Inga the thrall, your brother, lying nearby. Others shifting beneath layers, but alone enough to feel it. Alone enough to notice the weight of your own heartbeat, steady but heavy, in your ears. You look at your brother. He is still, pale but breathing. His eyes open just a crack when you whisper his name. You smile, cracked lips and all. He sees it, and he tries to smile back. That is enough. You sip more of the ash water. Each sip is a choice, a rebellion, a quiet insistence that you are still here. The taste lingers, bitter but oddly grounding. You remember your father once saying that pain means you're still part of the world. You believe him now. Hours pass in a quiet rhythm. The fire hisses, Inga hums. Someone sharpens a blade near the hearth, not for hunting, but to cut strips of cloth for the dead. Outside, a bell chimes, a bronze one, rarely used. It means another body has entered the earth. You close your eyes and press the cloth tighter around your shoulders. In the distance, a raven cries, a single note, sharp and short. You wonder if it's Hugin or Munin, Odin's watchers. You wonder what they see in this village now, if they still carry news to the gods about the suffering below. The fever hasn't left you, but it hasn't taken you either. You drift back to sleep in that grey space between sickness and survival, where every breath is a prayer and every awakening a blessing. The sun doesn't rise so much as it leans, casting its faint glow sideways through a slit between timber slats. In the depth of midwinter, light is a rumour, not a guarantee. And heat, when you find it, clings to you with the desperation of a stray dog, never loyal, never long-lasting. You open your eyes again, you're still alive. It's a strange realization. You expected worse, you expected nothing, but here you are, still wrapped in furs, still sticky with sweat, still blinking at the fire's orange glow like it's the only god worth worshipping. The cough has changed. It's lower now, deeper, less frequent, but sharper when it comes, like your lungs have turned to old pine wood, dry, cracked, about to splinter. You pull the cloak tighter around you and push your back against the wall, feeling the cold of the outer boards seep through. It steadies you somehow. Your brother lies silent beside you, but breathing. Each time his chest rises, you count. 1, 2, you've been doing this since before the snow began. It's the only number game left. A form of faith, maybe. You count his breaths like others count rosary beads in later centuries, holding on to rhythm as proof that something still works in this world. There's food today, thin but present. Inga has cooked a stew using dried onions, old barley, and something brown that might once have been salted goat meat. The pot smells better than anything you've had in days. It reminds you of your mother's hearth before she died, how she'd hum an old raiding song while adding wild garlic to the pot, laughing whenever it boiled over. That smell, that sound, it was safety. You cup the stew in your hands now, wooden bowl warm against your palms, steam rising in slow spirals. The first sip burns your tongue slightly, but you don't care. The heat is life. You swallow it like a secret, like something forbidden and sacred. And for a moment, you don't feel sick. You feel human. Others stir too. A few more voices. Someone near the back even chuckles briefly, not loudly, not cheerfully, but genuinely. It startles you. Laughter in this house of coughs and cloths. You glance toward the sound. It's the blacksmith's youngest son, barely 10. He's holding a carved wooden toy, crudely shaped, like a longboat with painted shields on its sides. Someone must have left it for him in the night. You realize something else. The worst has passed for some of you, not all, but some. The fever peaked like a mountain in the dark, and now the descent begins. You are sliding down its icy slope, bruised and cold but breathing. Not everyone made it, no, but you did. And you're still doing it. You lean your head back and let the warmth from the stew soak into your belly. The fire cracks again, louder this time. A log falls apart. Sparks jump upward, swirling toward the open smoke hole in the ceiling. Through it, you see a patch of sky, a colorless pale grey dome that feels closer than it should, like the sky itself is watching. Your sister returns later than expected. Snow clings to the hem of her cloak, frozen in jagged lumps. Her cheeks are raw, her lips blue at the edges. She doesn't speak right away. She just crouches near the hearth, hands extended toward the flames. Her eyes are glassy, not with tears, with distance, the kind of gaze people wear when they've buried too many names in too short a time. You touch her hand. She flinches slightly, then squeezes your fingers. No words. Just pressure, just skin against skin. That is enough. Words are brittle now. She nods at your bowl. You ate? You nod. Still hungry? She smiles. It's a strange sight on her face now, like light cracking through frost. Good. Means the fever's leaving. She doesn't tell you how many they buried. She doesn't need to. The silence speaks it. You glance at her pack. Inside, you catch sight of the corner of a red cloth, burial linen, unused. That means at least one made it who wasn't expected to. Maybe the blacksmith's wife. Maybe the seer woman who returned briefly at dawn to whisper a chant over the sick. By midday, the longhouse begins to shift. Not fully alive, not yet, but stirring. Blankets are folded. Ash is swept. The floor is dusted with sand and pine needles to kill the smell. Someone pours melted snow over a clay pot of water, adds crushed juniper, and sets it near the hearth. It steams gently, scenting the air with a sharp, green note that cuts through the lingering sickness. The thrall woman sits near your brother and begins brushing his hair. She uses an old bone comb, once belonging to her own son, long dead. She hums as she works, and your brother's face softens. He falls back asleep. Outside, the sound of sled runners whispers across snow. They're bringing more firewood from the forest edge. Others have begun chopping again. Life continues. Not fast, not loud, but undeniably. You sip the last of your stew and notice your legs don't ache as badly. Your head still throbs when you move, but the fog has lifted slightly. You hear clearer now. The longhouse no longer moans like a tomb. It breathes like you do. Your sister stands and opens the flap for fresh air. The cold that enters is sharp, but not cruel. It smells of snow, pine bark, smoke, and life. You breathe it in. The fever leaves slowly. It doesn't slam the door behind it or whisper goodbye. It simply recedes, inch by painful inch. Like the tide pulling back from a rocky shore, it takes its time, dragging your strength and memory with it. But it does go. That much you can feel now. You sit up longer each day. The cough remains, of course, but it no longer steals your breath like a thief in the dark. Your muscles ache from disuse, not sickness. Your joints crack when you stretch. Even the skin around your eyes feels less swollen. It's strange how you can feel the absence of something so clearly, the absence of death. Hunger is back too, real hunger, not just the faint desire to sip broth. Now you want meat, bread, salt. Your body craves rebuilding, but there's little to spare. The winter pantry was half eaten during the fever weeks. The salted fish is gone. The grain sacks are nearly empty. The cheese stores molded long ago. Still, Inga manages to feed you. Thin barley cakes made from old flour and ash water. She sears them on flat stones near the fire. They smell earthy and taste like burnt bark, but you chew every crumb like it's gold. She even finds dried apples once, shriveled things, chewy and sour. But they explode on your tongue like lightning. You eat slowly, reverently, the way a priest might sip wine. The longhouse is quieter now, not with death, with healing. There are fewer moans, fewer ragged cries in the night. You hear sleeping again, the soft, rhythmic kind. You hear stories too, whispers near the fire. Someone remembers when the fever took the West Fjord village 5 winters back. Another recalls a cousin in Birka who was saved by sea kelp tea and charms carved from walrus bone. Whether the tales are true doesn't matter. They are stories. Stories mean you expect a tomorrow. Your sister stitches. She's always stitching now. Clothing torn during the worst nights, blankets that need mending. She does it with speed, but not grace. Her hands are raw. The needle catches sometimes. Her fingers bleed. Still, she works. Work is how she quiets her mind. You don't interrupt her often. Your brother begins to sit up too. He leans against the beam beside your mat, sipping broth with small, stubborn sips. He doesn't speak yet, but he watches you. His eyes are alert again. You count his breaths less often now. Not because you've forgotten, because you're no longer afraid. You hear more from outside each day, the sound of sleds across snow, the low creak of axes, once even laughter, loud and awkward, like someone forgot what it was and is trying it on again. It makes your chest tighten, not with grief, with a fragile kind of hope. The burial mound behind the house has grown. A new cairn built from frost-streaked stones. Each one placed by a family member. Your sister helped carry the last of them up the hill 2 mornings ago. She didn't cry. She just came back with snow in her boots and a quiet that hung around her like mist. That night, she lit a tallow candle near the hearth and whispered names into the flame. One by one. You joined her. Your voice cracked, but you did it. Not prayers, just names. Naming is powerful. Naming is remembrance. The thrall woman begins teaching you again. She teaches by doing, by moving. She shows you how to boil moss into tea that settles the stomach, how to twist wool cords for sewing, how to stack wood so it dries faster, even in the snow. You're slow at first, your hands fumble, but she doesn't scold. She just hums her strange, low tune and gestures again. Each action is its own ritual now, sweeping the rushes, stirring the stew, refolding the mats. There is no room for waste, not in labor, not in time, not in breath. The longhouse depends on motion. Stillness is for the dead. You think often about your father, still gone, still hunting, still unaware. If he returns, he may find a smaller family, or a stronger one, or both. You wonder what stories he'll carry back from the high woods, what animals he saw, what signs he read in the snow. You hope the gods gave him clean air and dry fire. You hope he remembers your name? Midweek, the vulva returns. She comes without warning, wrapped in black wool with feathers braided into her hair. She smells of birch tar and smoke. Her eyes are milky, but sharp. She walks through the longhouse slowly, pausing at each sleeping mat, whispering something you can't hear. When she reaches you, she leans down and places a dried rowan leaf on your chest. The fever spirit has moved on, she says. You were not chosen. Then she nods once and walks away. You don't stop her. You don't thank her. The gods don't like gratitude before the snow melts. Later that evening, your sister speaks for the first time in days. She says the ice on the stream cracked this morning. That means the thaw is beginning. That means spring might come early. You nod. You can't smile yet, but you feel something rising in your chest that might one day become a smile. You lean back, tired, not from illness, from doing again, from surviving. The fire burns low and the air smells of pine smoke and old stew. Outside, the sky darkens into slate. Inside, the longhouse breathes again. The snow begins to melt in patches, reluctantly. It doesn't leave all at once. It retreats in pockets, vanishing from the stones first, then from the roof edges where icicles drip like teardrops loose too late. You notice it when the sound changes. No longer just the whisper of wind or the crunch of boots over frozen crust. Now there's dripping, trickling. Water finding its way through the seams of the earth. You hear it in the early morning. It blends with the caw of distant crows and the soft grunt of oxen in the yoke. The world outside is stirring, and for the first time in many moons, the longhouse does not feel like a sealed tomb. It breathes better now. The air inside has changed. Less smoke, more damp wood. You think maybe even the walls are sighing. You step outside for the first time in days. The cold hits your face like a slap, not cruel, but shocking. A reminder that you have skin, that you are real. You wrap your wool cloak tighter, press your hand against the lintel as you steady yourself and take your first real breath of open air since the fever came. It tastes of old snow and wood ash and something else. Change. The village looks half alive. Not thriving, not yet. But people move. Children dig at the snowbanks with sticks. A man hauls firewood in a sled dragged by a dog. Near the edge of the path, two women scrape moss from a rock, an early food when the stores run low. Their movements are slow but sure. And the burial mound? You see it clearly now, rising just beyond the field. A low hill of stone and dirt. Decorated with no markers, only the occasional carved stick, a bit of ribbon, a rune scratched into bark. Your sister stands near it, placing something small at its base. A figure carved from bone, a toy. You know whose it was. She lingers for a long moment, then turns and walks back toward the longhouse, her steps crunching softly over the thawing ground. When she rejoins you by the door, you say nothing. She doesn't look at you, but she leans into your shoulder just enough for you to feel the warmth of her. And that's all either of you needs. Later inside, the cleaning begins. It's not spoken. It just happens. One by one, those who are strong enough begin to move mats, shake out straw, scrub the wooden floor with melted snow and ash. Even the elders join scraping soot from the hearthstones. Someone pours boiled pine water into a bucket and soaks cloth in it to wipe down the walls. You do your part, slowly. You pick up the wooden cups used during the worst nights and rinse them in warm water. You gather herbs that are too dry to be useful and place them in the fire for their scent. You sweep ashes into a basket for disposal at the stream. The thrall woman gives you a nod, approval. or recognition. You've returned. Inga sings today, a low song, one with a rhythm like a boat rocking on gentle water. You don't know the words, but they calm you. Everyone moves to that tempo. It's as if the longhouse has become a ship, and you're all passengers, slowly leaving one shore behind and moving toward another. By midday, the sun hangs higher than you remember. Still weak, still cold, but brighter. Its light touches the floor through the open door, casting a golden stripe across the packed earth. You stand in it for a while, just to feel the difference. The warmth is faint, but it's real. The healing isn't only of bodies, it's of space, of memory. There are places in the longhouse no one has stepped since the fever came. Corners where the sick died, shadows where prayers were whispered. Now, slowly, those places are re-entered. A mat is moved, a new blanket is laid, a broom sweeps away dust that had settled like grief. At night, the fire burns strong again. Food simmers in the pot, root vegetables, dried meat, a pinch of salt. The scent is hearty, real. People talk more now, not just about sickness, but about fishing tools, seed stores, the next boat trip once the ice breaks. There are plans again. That's how you know life has returned, when talk of tomorrow outweighs talk of yesterday. You lie beside your brother, who now breathes easily and snores softly. You smile at the sound. Your sister sits by the fire, sewing a new cloak from 2 torn ones. She hums Inga's song off-key but brave. The thrall woman sharpens a knife with smooth, practiced strokes. Outside, the wind has softened to a whisper. Before sleep, someone opens the door again. A breeze sweeps in, and with it, the scent of wet earth. It smells like thaw, like rot, like growth. It smells like spring. And you think, not for the first time and not for the last, you truly lived through it. Spring in 873 AD doesn't arrive with celebration. It creeps in foot by cautious foot, like a wounded animal testing the thaw. No trumpets, no bright blooms, just less snow, less death, and more birdsong than there was before. You notice it in the small things first. The drip from the eaves grows steadier, clearer. Patches of brown earth peek through the white. On the far side of the longhouse, green shoots press against last year's flattened grass. Tentative but stubborn. The fever still lingers in the village's memory, even as it departs from bodies. No one speaks of it directly. They nod at the burial hill, they pause a moment longer when counting their children, but they don't say the names, not yet. Names hold power, and some are still too raw to invoke. You walk again, not far. Just down the path behind the longhouse, past the midden pile, toward the riverbank where the stream has begun to run freely. Your legs are stiff, your knees feel like leather left out in frost. But they hold. That's enough. The river sounds strange after so long in silence. It burbles like it's laughing. You squat down, carefully, and dip your fingers into it. The cold is shocking, piercing but clean. You cup some to your face, splash it over your cheeks. It stings, then soothes. You're not alone. Others come too, quietly. The blacksmith, the thatcher's widow. Your sister with your brother wrapped in a fur bundle on her back. One by one, they step into the water, splash their hands, press wet fingers to their chests. It's not ritual, not exactly, but it's something like it. A shared gesture, a return. Later that week, the vulva calls a gathering. It's the first since before the fever. She stands atop a stone near the burial mound, her face shadowed beneath a fur-lined hood. Feathers still hang from her braids, but they look more like scars now than decoration. "We mark the ending," she says. The villagers gather in a loose ring around her. No one sits. No one brings drums or horns, just voices. She begins to chant, not loudly, but clearly. The words are old, older than the settlement, older than the gods most people remember. You don't know all the meanings, but the cadence settles into your bones like warmth, a rising, falling, rising again. At one point, everyone joins in, not the words, but the rhythm. A thudding from feet, a communal breath, then silence. The vulva takes a carved stick and traces a circle in the earth. Within it, she places one sprig of juniper, one stone from the river, and a bit of hair, hers, you think. To remember, she says, but not to carry. She steps back. The ritual ends. People disperse slowly. Some cry, some clasp hands, others walk away alone. Your sister stands very still. She doesn't cry, but her jaw tightens. She whispers a name, your cousin's, lost to the fever in the second week, and breathes it into the wind. You walk home together afterward. It's silent between you for a while, not heavy, just full. She finally speaks when you reach the door. We'll plant this year? You nod. Barley? Barley, maybe onions, if we trade for seed. You don't talk about what the fever took. You talk about what the ground might give. That's how the living move forward here. Inside the longhouse, changes are subtle but important. The rushes on the floor are new. The bedding is shifted. The mat that belonged to the girl who died is gone. No longer empty, just gone. As if she was always a ghost passing through. The thrall woman paints protective runes above the hearth with soot and fish oil. Your brother helps her, holding the bowl steady. He's smiling now, laughing even when the mixture drips on his hand. His fingers are steadier than yours. Inga prepares fermented fish in clay pots outside the door. The smell is awful. It means the village expects to survive long enough to eat preserved food again. That alone feels like a blessing. Someone brings new herbs from the woods. Angelica, moss, early mint. They dry them by the fire. You help tie them in bundles with twine and hang them above the rafters where the old herbs once crumbled. One evening, your father returns. You see him from afar, walking down the path with a bundle of furs slung over one shoulder. He looks thinner. His hair is wild. His eyes search the house as he nears. He pauses at the burial mound, kneels briefly, then continues forward. When he enters, silence falls. Then your sister moves to him, embraces him hard. He drops the furs, clasps her back. His eyes meet yours, red-rimmed. But he smiles. It's real. It's deep. It cracks his whole face open. You move toward him. He grabs you by the shoulders, pulls you in. His grip is fierce, like he's holding together everything that might still fall apart. He doesn't ask how bad it was. He doesn't need to. That night, he shares smoked hare from the hills. You eat together around the fire. There's laughter, there's quiet, there's memory, but above all, there is life. The longhouse no longer smells of sickness. Now it smells of smoke, pine, wool, and the faint tang of fish fermenting outside. You wake to the creak of wooden buckets and the clang of iron against stone. These are not the sounds of grief. They are the sounds of labor. Labor is how the Norse survive. Your father rises early, just as he always did, even during the dark moons, even when your mother was still alive. He sharpens his axe outside the longhouse, seated on a low stool carved from an oak log. The thump rhythm of stone, across blade, fills the air with a sound older than speech. It's the same rhythm you remember as a child, lying beneath furs and pretending not to be awake. He doesn't talk much yet. None of you do, not because there's nothing to say, but because there's too much. So instead, you work. He teaches you how to split the thicker logs now that the frost is melting. The trick, he says, is to watch the grain, not to fight the wood, but to follow it. Your hands blister after the first hour. The axe feels heavier than it once did. But he doesn't scold, he just nods once like passing a silent torch and continues stacking. You begin to understand that healing is not a destination, it's a labor. One you perform in silence, over and over, until your body remembers what it means to be strong again. Inside, the rhythm is the same. Inga begins to boil linens in ash water to clean what the fever touched. Your sister sews new tunics from old scraps, reusing every inch of cloth. Even your brother contributes, sorting dried herbs, crushing juniper berries with a stone until their scent fills the air with sharp life. The walls are scrubbed with sand and snow, the furs beaten clean and rehung. Someone fills cracks in the timber with moss and pitch. Every movement says, "We are still here." You learn to measure the day by tasks completed, not hours past. By how full the firewood basket is, how many new bundles of straw are laid, how many clay pots line the wall by sundown. The old rhythms of survival are returning. The chores aren't new, they never are, but they feel different now. Everything you do feels laced with memory. That mat you sweep, it once held a feverish body. That pot you scrub, it boiled the last broth you offered to someone who never drank it. But you clean anyway, not out of forgetfulness, but reverence. Some tasks are stranger. One afternoon, your sister finds you near the stream and tells you it's time to move the bones. You freeze. What bones? She nods toward the woods. The ones from the fever's first days. The ones buried shallow, before we knew how many would come. You follow her. The path is quiet, padded with pine needles. She doesn't speak, and neither do you. It feels wrong to fill the space with voices. Even the birds are quiet here, as if the trees remember. You reach the small grove where 3 bodies were buried quickly under stones and moss. The snow has melted here. The soil is dark, wet. A crow's feather lies across one of the stones. The scent of damp earth and old pine fills your nostrils, earthy and clean, yet somber. Together, you build a small cairn, higher this time, stronger. You gather granite from the hillside, stack it carefully. Each stone is placed with both hands. Each one whispers, "I remember." When it's done, your sister presses a carved rune into the earth. It's not a name, just a symbol, a rising sun over water. She says nothing. You nod. Then you return home. That evening, the wind shifts. It carries the scent of soil and roots of thawing things. The longhouse breathes differently, less of ash, more of the outside world sneaking in. It's as though spring is not just weather now, but presence. An unseen guest easing into the room, polite and unannounced. In the corner, your brother begins to carve again. He holds a knife your father gave him and whittles old pine into a shape you don't recognize yet. Not a ship, not a god, just something with wings. His hands are steadier than yours. The fever took his voice for a while, but not his craft. Inga brews spruce tea in a clay pot. It smells sharp, clean and piney, astringent enough to snap your senses awake. She pours it into wooden cups and hands them out without ceremony. It warms you from the inside. It feels like a baptism in reverse, not an initiation, but a return. There's laughter again. Low, unsure, like a young wolf testing its howl. The thrall woman tells a story, half true, half song, about a cow that wandered into a seer's hut and saw her own future. The punchline makes Inga laugh so hard she nearly drops her stitching. You smile not because the story is funny, but because it's told. Later, your father brings out his old horn. It's chipped, worn, but whole. He pours a bit of mead inside, not enough to waste, but enough to remember, and raises it to the hearthfire. To those who stayed, he says quietly, and to those who didn't. No one repeats him. No one needs to. You all drink. The mead burns your throat slightly, but it's sweet too. It tastes like old feasts, like childhood, like stories. The kind that live longer than the people who tell them. Your sister braids your hair before bed. Her fingers are gentle, more careful than usual. You don't know if she does it for your comfort or hers. You don't ask. Before sleep, she sits beside you. She holds your hand, just for a moment, just long enough. Then she says, "We lived." You whisper, "Not all." She squeezes your fingers, "But enough." And the fire crackles its quiet agreement. The logs hiss softly as the sap escapes. The longhouse settles, the earth outside shifts. And somewhere, just past the edge of sleep, a new season waits its turn. Spring doesn't break like a wave. It drips and seeps, nudges and warms, but never announces itself. And then one morning, it's simply there. You know it not by the sun, but by the mud. The path outside the longhouse is soft now. Footprints remain behind instead of crunching. You step into the earth and it gives, sinking slightly beneath your weight, accepting it like a memory taking root. The air smells different, richer, less cold, more alive. You catch the scent of tree sap, wet wool, wood smoke, and something green, something growing. After so long spent indoors, wrapped in stillness and sweat, and fevered dreams, it smells like another world. Today is for trade. Word came that a boat from the coast had arrived early. The fjord ice broke 2 weeks ahead of the expected thaw. A small crew from a neighboring village came upriver with news, salt, and fish. They come not for celebration, but to remind each other they still exist. Your father dresses carefully. He wears his seal-hide boots, patched but sturdy. His best tunic with faded embroidery at the collar. You offer to help carry the trade goods. It's not much. 2 bundles of dried mushrooms, a small pouch of antler buttons, and the carved comb your brother finished only yesterday. It's enough. The walk to the meeting ground takes time. Your legs are strong again, but not quick. Your sister and brother come too. Others join along the way, neighbors, cousins, even the thatcher's widow leaning on a stick. There's no parade, just people walking, quietly, but together. You crest the low hill that overlooks the meeting stones, and there, like something from a forgotten tale, is the boat, small but proud, pulled ashore, oars crossed beside it like arms folded in rest. The traders stand by a fire pit, passing a skin of mead between them. They look weary but alive. No one rushes. This isn't a market. It's something gentler. Your father greets them first. A clasp of hands, a quiet word. Then the slow exchange begins. Fish for mushrooms, needles for antler buttons, a soft blue cloth for the comb. Your brother watches his carving vanish into another man's pouch, and his eyes widen, not with loss, but awe. His craft is leaving home. Someone tells a tale of a town upriver that weathered the same fever. Half their children gone. But their goats survived, and the forest grew quiet again. Someone else speaks of a seal seen near the rocks, the first of the season. Good luck. The traders speak of dreams. One man says he saw the All-Father in a pool of dark water. Another swears he heard Frigg whisper to him through the pines. No one mocks them. Dreams mean something now, they always did, but now people listen. A song is sung. You don't know the words, it's a coastal dialect, but the tune is familiar. It's about the sea, about rowing into fog, about coming back home with less than you left and still giving thanks. The melody sways, low and steady, like a boat's motion on calm water. Someone brings out dried berries, someone else a strip of smoked eel. You chew slowly. Each bite is a gift. And then, without planning, without call, someone begins to drum. Not on a proper drum, but on a wooden bowl, just a tap-tap rhythm. Another joins with a hollow stick. Another claps. The beat grows, not loud, but alive. Your brother taps a stick against his palm. Your sister hums. You begin to sway. Your father smiles, truly smiles, and that moment burns into your bones. The traders leave by sundown. No farewells, no promises, just nods, hands on shoulders, a lingering glance. They return to the fjord, to their boats, to their own quiet rituals of remembrance. You walk home slower. The sun hangs low, casting golden light through bare branches. Your feet are wet with thaw mud. Your hands smell of salt and wood smoke. Your stomach is full. At the door to the longhouse, your father pauses. He touches the lintel, traces the old rune carved there. Then he enters. Inside, the fire is still burning. Inga stirs something thick in the pot. The thrall woman kneels beside a young goat, newborn, wobbling on thin legs. She grins when she sees you. "It came at midday," she says, "right on time." You kneel beside the goat. It's warm, twitchy, alive. It bleats once, high, uncertain. You stroke its soft fur and whisper, "Welcome." And in your heart, you say it again. Welcome. There is a quiet that follows survival, and it is not peace. It is something older, stranger, like the stillness in the forest after an avalanche. Things broken, moved, unrecognizable, and yet the wind still moves the leaves. You wake now, not from pain, but from rest. But even rest feels odd. Your limbs ache, not from fever, but from use. You've split logs, carried water, helped patch the thatch roof with your father. The cough that once ruled your days is now a dry echo, the aftersound of something you're beginning to forget. Yet even in this recovery, something has shifted. The longhouse looks the same, but feels different. It's not the walls, or the roof, or the fire. It's the people inside. They speak softer now. They touch each other more gently, as though everyone is made of bark and clay, still drying after the flood. Your sister is louder now in the way that matters. She sings while she works. Her voice isn't beautiful by bard standards, but it has weight. She sings of the sun returning, of barley rising, of a goat's birth and a raven's cry. These are not tales to be told in halls, they're living records. She learned them not from scalds, but from sickness. Each verse is a breath she didn't expect to keep. Your brother follows her everywhere now. His cough is gone, his eyes bright again. He draws in the dirt with a stick, carving runes and ships and strange shapes of his own making. He hums when he does it, little nonsense songs, half words and clicks. You think he's speaking to someone only he can see. You do not stop him. That kind of madness, the gentle kind, is welcome here. Your father works from dawn to dusk. He has not spoken of your mother since he returned. But he tends her grave daily. It is not in the burial hill. Hers was an earlier death, from winter hunger, not fever. Yet he touches the cairn with the same reverence, as though each stone is a syllable of her name. Sometimes he leaves offerings, fish bones, carved wood, even once a smooth stone that glimmered like ice. He does not ask the gods for answers. He asks them only to listen. The village slowly gathers itself back together. Paths are walked again, boats are dragged back toward the shore. Children chase each other without masks of silence on their faces, but not everyone returned. There are homes that remain sealed, windows dark, thresholds cold. Sometimes you catch someone looking at one of these houses too long. No one speaks of opening them. Not yet. They are tombs now until time decides otherwise. On a grey morning, the chieftain returns from the northern trail. His arrival is quiet, but his presence shifts things. He brings news, not of war or gold, but of other villages. Some fared better, some worse. He lost 2 sons to the fever, one on the 5th day, one on the 6th. He wears both deaths like jewelry, his braids bound in black twine, his cloak hemmed with silence. But he stands tall, and when he speaks, people listen. "We survived," he says, not as boast, but as confession. "We bury what's gone and we plant what's left." And so they do. You help prepare the soil when the ice has fully gone. You kneel beside your sister in the thin rows she marks with a stick. Your knees ache, your fingers are numb, but you press seeds into earth like prayers. Barley, onion, turnip, each a gamble, each a promise. Your brother finds a toad and declares it the guardian of the crop. Your sister laughs and builds a tiny shrine of twigs for it. You do not object. Every god deserves their altar. Inside, the longhouse smells of yeast and clay. Inga bakes flatbread again. Her flour is low, but she mixes it with dried lichen and old oats. The result is chewy, sour, and tastes more of effort than anything else. But when it's warm and smeared with goat cheese, it feels like luxury. You eat quietly beside your father. He doesn't speak, but he tears his bread in half and hands it to you. No words are needed. The fire crackles, the goat bleats from its pen in the corner. Someone outside plays a bone flute, its notes sweet and sharp, like bird calls. That night, your dreams return. They are not of fire or frost, nor of fever. You dream of the river running faster than before, of your mother seated beside the hearth, smiling without speaking, of a raven dropping a red ribbon at your feet and you tying it to a stone cairn. You wake with the feeling that something ended and something else, unseen, unnamed, has begun. The ground is soft now and always damp. Mud clings to your boots no matter where you step. It cakes the floors of the longhouse and coats the handles of tools. But no one minds. Mud means the world is warm enough to give again. It means roots can wake and stretch and remember what it is to grow. Your days begin before the sky has fully turned blue. The air is cold, still, but not the kind that makes your bones ache. Just cold enough to make you aware of your breath. Your sister is already outside by the time you slip on your cloak. She kneels in the garden plot behind the longhouse, her fingers black with soil, her hair braided back, damp from the morning mist. She hums again, one of her planting songs. She claims they help the barley know which way to grow. You don't ask how she knows, you just listen. You kneel beside her without a word. The dirt is cold against your knees, but you press your palms into it, part the soil with your thumbs and begin to plant. One seed at a time, a rhythm slower than thought. There's no hurry, the seeds will wait, and so will the gods. Your father and brother have gone to the woods today. The axe is lighter now in your father's hands than it was in yours just a few weeks ago. He moves differently. Leaner, quieter, but not weaker. They've gone to gather timber for repairs on the boathouse. Your brother insisted on coming. He carries no weapon, just a sling and a small blade. But he walks with purpose, like the woods owe him a story. Inside, the longhouse is quieter during the day. The goat sleeps curled beside the hearth, twitching occasionally as if dreaming of sunlit pastures. Inga grinds dried fish and oats together with a heavy stone. The mixture will become cakes, thick, oily things meant to last for days of hard labor. You used to wrinkle your nose at them. Now you wait for them warm from the pan like a feast. The thrall woman sings today, not the songs you recognize, but ones in a tongue you don't speak. She sits near the wall, her hands busy with net repair, her voice lilting like wind through bare branches. You catch only phrases, something about stars, something about boats returning. Maybe it's a prayer. Maybe it's just memory wrapped in music you don't interrupt. Later, when your brother returns, he brings a bundle of pine and an old bird's skull he found near a stream. He shows it to your sister, who inspects it with a frown. "Bad omen," she mutters, but your brother grins and ties it to a stick, declares it a guardian spirit for the new barley plot. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because his laughter invites yours. It's been too long since Joy asked for company. That night, a storm rolls in. You hear it before you see it. Wind howling through the roof gaps, pine boughs groaning outside. The longhouse shudders with each gust. You press your back to the central beam, watching sparks dance up the hearth. The flames hiss as rain leaks through a split in the thatch. Your father patches it with an old pelt. No one complains. You've all known worse. The wind knocks over a clay bowl. The goat bleats in protest. Thunder rolls across the valley like the voice of Thor himself. Your sister crosses herself in the old way, 3 fingers to brow and chest. You mimic her, though you don't know if it's for the thunder or the memories it stirs. But no one is afraid. Not truly. Because storms are loud, not cruel. Storms pass. When the wind fades, the rain becomes steady. A lullaby of drops against timber, trickling through gutters, slipping down branches. The hearth glows gently, low and soft, casting long shadows that do not frighten you anymore. You fall asleep to the sound of rain and breathing. And when you dream, you are a tree, still rooted, still growing, even in the storm. A month passes, maybe more. Time is measured not in numbers, but in changes. The goat has grown bold and begun nibbling the frayed edge of your father's cloak. The barley has pushed tiny shoots above the earth, bright and stubborn. The blackbird that sang from the thatch each morning is now building its nest in the rafters. The longhouse is full again, not with guests, but with motion, with noise, with heat. You have returned to something that looks like normal, though it does not feel quite the same. It's like wearing an old tunic that no longer fits around the shoulders. Comfortable in theory, strange in practice. Your days fall into rhythm, mornings of labor, carrying water, feeding goats, watching for weeds in the garden. Midday brings rest, shared bread, the coolness of the hearth shadows. Afternoons are for chores that need silence, scraping hides, patching nets, boiling herbs. You don't speak much during these hours, not because there's nothing to say, but because some things you've decided speak better in quiet. The neighbors visit more often now. They come with jars of pickled cabbage, with sacks of salt, with stories. One brings news of a marriage planned for the next moon. Another tells of a bear spotted near the forest's edge unusually early. The bear, they say, is a sign. Of what, no one agrees. Some say war, others wealth. One old man says it's just a bear, and everyone laughs because the truth is always somewhere between. Your brother has taken to carving again. Not just toys now, but talismans. Small, crude faces. Eyes too wide, mouths too small. He hangs them over the garden gate. Your sister lets him. She says they keep the birds away. You're not sure if that's true, but you like the way they look, like guardians who forgot how to be gods and settled for watching barley. One evening, as the sun sets behind the low hills, your father stands at the edge of the path looking west. Smoke rises there, not thick, not close, but visible. The kind of smoke that means others are burning wood for reasons unknown, not cooking fires, not bonfires, something else. The smoke bends with the wind and disappears. He doesn't speak of it that night, but he oils his axe. The next day he joins the other men. They walk west, not to fight, not to flee. Just to see, the rest of you wait. You sit near the hearth, thread in hand, eyes on the door. Hours pass. When he returns, his face is unreadable. "A farm," he says. "Gone. Burned to ash. No bodies." "Raiders?" someone asks. He shakes his head. "No boats. No footprints. Just fire." No one knows what it means, but everyone feels the same tightness return. That same breathless hush that came before the fever. The world, it seems, never fully settles. You go to bed early that night. You pull the furs tight and listen, not to the wind or the fire or the snoring goat, but to your own heartbeat. You realize it no longer races, it no longer fights, it just beats, steady, surviving, like everything else in this house. And when you sleep, you dream again, not of sickness, not of storms, but of standing on the barley field, waist deep in green, the sun hot on your back, and the birds circling overhead like they're watching over something sacred. Not every illness leaves with the fever. Some sicknesses stay behind, silent, formless, lingering in corners, like smoke that seeps into your clothes long after the fire has died. They are not the kind that boil the blood or blacken the tongue. They do not steal breath or color the skin. These are quieter afflictions, the kind that live in the muscles of the jaw, in the hollows beneath the eyes, in the way your hands hesitate when reaching for another's. You first see it in your sister. She hums still in the garden. She still braids her hair each morning, still strokes your brother's cheek when he sleeps beside her. But the songs are shorter now, and her hands tremble when they pause. She no longer smiles in the morning, only after the chores are done, if at all. And sometimes you catch her staring at the door, not with longing, but with fear, as if something could slip through again, unseen, and unravel her all over. She does not speak of the girl she held as she died, the one whose mother was gone, whose breath came in wet gasps until it stopped. Your sister had sat with her long after death, whispering prayers, plaiting her hair for burial, fingers shaking not from cold, but from loss. Now she avoids that side of the longhouse altogether. Your father speaks less than ever, not from grief, from burden. His words are rationed like salt in winter, used only when needed. He sharpens tools that don't need sharpening. He oils his boots twice a week. You once caught him standing over the hearth, motionless, his lips moving slightly. You couldn't hear the words. You didn't ask. Sometimes he walks to the edge of the woods and just waits, watching, listening. You wonder what he hopes to see, perhaps another fire rising in the west, perhaps a sign, or perhaps nothing, just the quiet assurance that for now the world is still intact. And then there is your brother. The fever left his body weeks ago, but he talks in his sleep now. Not words exactly, more sounds, soft whimpers, half laughter. He clutches his fur wrap tighter even when it's warm, and one morning you find him sitting outside before dawn, barefoot in the dew, drawing circles in the soil with a broken comb. "What are you doing?" you ask. "Trapping the dreams," he says, without looking up. You sit beside him. Say nothing. His circles widen, overlap, twist inward. The patterns are beautiful. Strange. You don't understand them, but somehow they make sense. The village, too, wears its scars quietly. The fever is gone, but it left behind gaps. Gaps in families, in tables, in the paths worn between doorsteps. Some doors remain closed, others hang open, untouched since their occupants were carried out. Children walk wider arcs around those houses. Adults do too, though they don't admit it. At the next gathering, the chieftain addresses them all. His voice is as firm as ever, but you notice the way his shoulders sag beneath his cloak. "We bury the dead," he says, "but we do not bury their names. Speak them, share them. That is how they stay among us." No one speaks then. But a murmur grows as the meeting ends. Someone whispers a name, then another. By evening, there are dozens, spoken around hearths, murmured into cups, etched in ash on the longhouse walls. It is not grief, it is memory, held gently as one might cradle an ember. You do your part too. You rise early, tend the goat, weed the barley plot. You help your sister boil herbs and press oil from the pine cones. Your father shows you how to split wood without wasting the grain. You teach your brother how to make cord from flax fibers. You talk little, but you stay close. These are acts of healing, though no one calls them that. Inga brews stronger tonics now, bitter-sweet concoctions with bark and berries meant not for fever, but for strength. She drinks them too. Everyone does. It's not about protection anymore. It's about rebuilding the shell you once cracked just to survive. One night, the vulva returns. She walks in without knocking, staff clicking softly with each step. Her new staff is different, topped with a raven's skull, its beak tied with red thread, feathers dangling like thoughts caught mid-flight. She speaks little. She does not chant or sing. She simply walks the room, touching each chest with her palm. When she reaches you, she lingers. Her hand is rough, warm, her eyes close. Then she whispers, "Just for you." Some fevers burn the body, others burn the soul. The second take longer to leave. You don't ask how to stop the burning, you just bow your head. Later that night, as the fire dies, you lie beside your sister. She is awake, her breath shallow, her eyes wide. She doesn't speak, but her hand finds yours beneath the furs. You squeeze it. Lightly. Once. She doesn't let go. The longhouse creaks with wind, but it is a softer wind now, less howling, more like breath. The goat shifts in its sleep. The hearth hisses gently. Your brother mutters a dream into his blanket, then stills. And in the dark, you come to understand this. Survival was only the beginning. The real work lies in learning to live again, to eat without guilt, to laugh without flinching, to love without fearing that love is the cost the gods demand next. You're not there yet, but you're on the path. And the path, for now, is enough. The barley sprouts are taller now, slender green blades swaying in the breeze, their roots holding fast to soil that not so long ago was frozen and full of the dead. Your sister walks among them each morning, humming that same half-song, the one she never fully explains. She says nothing of omens these days, just watches the skies, watches the wind. It's not fear, you think, it's reverence. The village is quieter than it was last spring, but fuller than it was last winter. Some of the homes that were silent now smoke again. Others remain sealed, their thresholds never crossed. You walk past them on your errands, eyes forward. Everyone does. Those houses hum a different song now, and no one quite knows the words. Your father returns from a hunt with 3 hares, and a silence that feels less heavy than before. He takes time to sit with your brother and show him how to stretch a hide across a frame. The boy listens well. His hands are small but skilled. The ghost of the fever no longer rides his shoulders as heavily, though he still wakes some nights with a cry in his throat and his palms slick with sweat. You sit beside him when he does. You don't say anything, just let him hold your hand until his breathing slows. There's talk of a feast, not to celebrate exactly, but to mark a turning. The old woman with the milky eye says the gods expect acknowledgement when a village crawls from under death's shadow. She says a feast reminds the spirits of the living who's still owed protection. So a feast is planned. Preparations begin 3 days in advance. The longhouse is swept of every bit of ash, every cobweb. The hearth is scrubbed. The goat is washed to its loud displeasure. Your sister even braids your hair for the first time in weeks. Her fingers are gentler now, as if touching you, too quickly might cause a crack. Men return from the woods with game. Women dig out the last of the stored roots. You help gather early herbs from the slope behind the burial mound. Sage, fennel, and wild garlic. Their scents cling to your hands even after washing. You breathe them in like a promise. The day of the feast dawns warm but overcast. The fire is built early and meat hung above it by midday. The smell draws people out from homes you haven't seen, opened in weeks. You recognize all the faces, but some look different, as though loss has reshaped them, made them longer, deeper, heavier. No one wears finery, but everyone washes. That alone feels ceremonial. Your sister prepares a bowl of herbs and places it on the altar stone near the fire. Your father lays his hunting knife beside it, blade up. Your brother brings a carving, a fish with wings. He places it beside the bowl. It's not a tradition, it's just what felt right. As dusk falls, the villagers sit in a circle around the fire. The food is passed hand to hand. No one eats fast, no one speaks loudly. But there is laughter, small, real. You tear a piece of roasted meat with your fingers and hand the better half to your sister. She nods in thanks, and for the first time in many moons, she eats without hesitation. The vulva stands as the moon rises. She carries no staff tonight, just a bowl of ash. She dips her fingers in and draws 3 lines on her own brow. Then she walks the circle, repeating the motion on every forehead. When she reaches you, her touch is warm. She does not speak. She doesn't need to. The chieftain raises a cup of fermented berry mead. It's sour and thick, but when you sip it, it warms all the way to your toes. To those who left, he says, and to those who stayed, we remember both. Then the songs begin, not dirges, but old verses, tales of foolish kings, clever foxes, giants who loved trees more than gold. Someone beats a pot like a drum. A girl claps out rhythms on her knees. Your brother dances, arms flailing, tongues sticking out. No one scolds him. He's alive. You find yourself smiling. Not because the song is joyful, but because it's being sung at all. Later, the fire burns low. People begin to drift away, one by one, into the night, into the forest path, into homes that no longer feel like tombs. You sit beside your sister. She leans against your shoulder, eyes half closed. Still feel it? You ask. She nods. But it doesn't chase me now, just follows? You nod, you understand. The stars blink above, shy behind thin clouds. The goat snores in its pen. Your brother mumbles a song in his sleep, and the ashes in the hearth settle with a hiss. You survived the fever. You survived the winter, and now in the space between feast and silence, between healing and haunting, you begin to live again. Summer doesn't arrive with a trumpet call or a burst of color. It seeps in slowly, pouring itself into the cracks left behind by winter and sorrow, filling spaces in your life you'd nearly forgotten existed. It arrives on the breath of morning fog that burns away into sunlight before you finish your chores. It finds you in the breeze that makes the barley bend and sigh, as if it too has survived something sacred and terrible. The days now stretch long, fat with sunlight and task. The sky no longer sits low and grey. It opens up like a lid has been lifted, full of rolling clouds that move lazily across your vision. The light feels endless, and with it, time feels strange again. Not rushed, not still, but fluid, like the river you once feared would rise too fast. Now it only carries warmth. Each morning you wake earlier, not from necessity, but from rhythm. You rise before the others and walk barefoot into the dew, the ground cold but soft. You greet the barley shoots, now nearly to your hip, and inspect their edges for signs of beetles. The air smells sweet and green. Somewhere in the distance, the goat bleats, annoyed at the birds picking at her salt lick. Your sister follows after. Her hair is longer now. She braids it in silence and wraps her shoulders in her mother's old shawl. You think she looks older, not just in her face, but in her presence. She hums while she works, as always, but the tunes have changed. Less lullaby, more chant. She says they keep the field safe. You don't ask from what. Your brother is often in the woods, gathering moss and sticks, making his strange charms. He's found a squirrel skull and painted it with ochre. It now hangs from the garden gate. He insists it keeps out bad dreams. The vulva encouraged it, even gave him a string of beads to add. You've stopped questioning the oddness. Oddness, you've learned, often walks closest with truth. Your father has taken to fishing again. He mends the nets with a patience you never saw before the fever. When he returns with his catch, he tells no tales, only hands over the fish and pats your shoulder like it's the only word he still trusts. The sea hasn't changed, he says. That's what he likes about it. The tide still comes and goes, unbothered by sickness or sorrow. Then comes the day of the burial. The thatcher's wife has passed, not suddenly but softly, like a candle snuffed by wind rather than hand. She had long outlasted her usefulness in the eyes of labour, but not in wisdom. She knew every herb by its leaf, every ghost by its whisper. She had predicted the fever, you now recall, though no one listened. Your sister prepares her body. You help, washing her with spruce water and wrapping her in the white shawl she wove herself as a girl. She looks more peaceful in death than in the last months of life, when her eyes fluttered open only to confirm she was still here. Your brother places a small talisman at her feet, a bear with wings. She flew away in the night, he says. You believe him. No one laughs. The cairn is built high, with thick stones and fragrant moss packed between them. Her name is not spoken aloud, but everyone knows it. It hums beneath your breath as you walk home. That night, the longhouse is quiet in a different way, not heavy, just full. From then on, summer spills across the land like oil on cloth. Berries darken on the vine, bees buzz loud in the trees. The barley turns golden at its tips. Your sister's stitches grow neater. Your brother's laughter comes more often. Someone paints the longhouse door with a new symbol, a rising sun over waves, bright red. The goat sleeps in a new pen, proudly rebuilt by your father after a raccoon made mischief in the night. And still, the vulva visits. You make a new cup for your brother, carved from birch, polished with tallow. His old one cracked when he dropped it near the fire, and he mourned it like a pet. The new one has a fox etched into the base, its tail curling around the handle. He loves it instantly. Each night the sun dips so slowly you forget it's leaving at all. The fire in the hearth feels less like necessity and more like tradition now. It glows softly, more for comfort than warmth. Your sister lies near it, twisting thread from wool, her fingers methodical. Your father carves a new spoon. Your brother snores curled like a cat. One evening, while the light still clings to the treetops, you walk the riverbank. The water runs slower now, thick with reflected gold. You see fish beneath the surface, darting through reeds, chasing shadows. You kneel and dip your hands in. The cold startles you, but in a welcome way. It reminds you that life still bites. You hear a tune carried on the breeze, your brother's reed pipe, faint and faltering. He's perched on a rock upstream, playing a melody that seems older than he is. You sit nearby and let the sound fold around you like a second skin. Later, your sister joins you, carrying bread wrapped in cloth. The three of you eat in silence, watching the river turn copper. She leans her head on your shoulder and hums a line of the old chant, the one your mother used to sing. Your brother adds a harmony Unintentional, but perfect. For a moment, the river and the field and the longhouse are one. You walk home under a sky that can't decide if it's dusk or dawn. The air is thick with the scent of green things, of earth that's yielded and flourished. Fireflies blink near the garden. The goat snorts at something unseen and promptly lies back down. When you crawl beneath your blanket, it smells faintly of lavender and smoke. Close your eyes. No dreams come, but you do not miss them. And in that stillness, that soft, eternal twilight, you understand something that does not need to be spoken aloud. You have outlived more than a sickness. You've outlived fear. And now, in this village that breathes again, you are simply allowed to be. The harvest begins not with ceremony, but with the simple truth that the barley can no longer be ignored. Its heads are full, its stalks heavy, its rustle now a whisper of readiness. The village does not wait for a sign from the gods. The sign is in the bowing of the crop, in the smell of earth and grain that clings to your skin before the sun has even risen. You rise that first harvest morning with the same rhythm you've always had, but something feels different. Your sister is already outside, her braid tied back with red wool. Your father stands at the edge of the plot, hands on hips, eyes on the sky. He nods once, not at you, but at the land. Your brother runs ahead, shrieking with joy, chasing a hare that darts through the gold. No one stops him. Let the boy run. The scythes are sharpened with care. Your father shows you again how to hold one, arms steady, wrists loose. The motion must be fluid, like sweeping, like breathing. You begin at the edge and work inward, blades singing low as they pass through the stems. The sound is satisfying, like undoing something that was always meant to be undone. The work is long. Your hands blister, your back aches, but the air is cool and the sky mercifully overcast. You tie bundles with your sister, whispering jokes only half-formed, neither of you laughing aloud, but both of you smiling. The rhythm of work becomes a song without words, a drumbeat made from muscle and dust. Children are given small tasks, carrying twine, fetching water, shooing birds. Your brother, puffed with importance, guards the drying racks with a stick and an exaggerated scowl. He calls himself the scarekeeper. He takes the job seriously. You play along. At midday, bread is passed around with dried meat and sour berries. You eat with dirty fingers, seated in the shade of the longest stalk still standing. Someone passes around mead, and for once, no one tells the children no. The moment feels like a reward earned not just today, but all year. In the afternoon, you help your sister hang the first bundles near the longhouse. The scent is strong, nutty, earthy, full of sunlight. She tells you it smells like a promise. You nod, though you're not sure what the promise is. As twilight, or something like it, returns, the village becomes a different place. The air is rich with motion, boots on soil, laughter in clusters, cloth flapping on drying poles. The longhouse doors are propped open to let in the dusk breeze. Someone starts a song, soft and old, a lullaby for grown men really. Others join, not in melody but in memory. That night, your body protests every movement. Your hands are raw, your shoulders tight. But when you lie beneath your blanket, you feel whole. Tired, yes, but the kind of tired that roots you. Harvest continues for days. The barley goes first, then the herbs, then the early apples from the elder's tree by the river. You gather each with care, with reverence. Your brother insists on naming every apple he picked. This one is Arnulf. He's small but bold. You roll your eyes, but you don't stop him. Your sister mixes the herbs into new tinctures, fresh and strong. You help her bottle them in clay jars. She labels them in runes only she understands. Just in case, she says. You don't ask. Your father speaks to you one evening while you both shell seeds by the fire. This will be a good winter, he says, not hopeful, certain like a man who's done the math with his bones. The vulva returns quietly one afternoon, stepping between drying racks like a shadow. She doesn't say much, only traces a line in the soil near the hearth and places a small bundle of feathers in the corner. Blessing for fat goats, she murmurs. Your goat snorts as if unimpressed. You dream again that night. This time of barley bending under a storm, not breaking. Of foxes running along the thatch roof. Of your brother on his raft, laughing as he sails through mist. When you wake, you remember every detail. You don't tell anyone. It feels like a story still forming. By the end of the week, the village is full, not of people, but of presence, of smell and grain and purpose. The fever belongs to another time now, another self. You still remember it, but it no longer follows you. It stands at a distance, just outside the light, a shadow that nods in respect and walks the other way. And so, as the last bundles are hung, the last jars sealed, the last songs murmured into the dust, you realize something you had not dared to name. You are no longer a survivor. You are alive. Autumn doesn't arrive with a gust. It enters like a held breath, released slowly. The air cools just enough to tighten the skin at night. The trees at the forest edge whisper more than rustle, their leaves tinged faintly gold. Even the sun changes its shape, soft now, diffused through a sky pale as old wool. The last of the barley has been bundled, the drying racks taken down. The field lies flat and strange, exposed. It makes the village look wider, older. The children reclaim it during the day, running through rows of forgotten stalks, reenacting raids they don't remember, and peace they've never questioned. Your sister weaves thicker thread now, hands working faster. The cold will come, she says. Not tomorrow, but soon enough. You help her dye wool using crushed berries and lichen. Your hands turn purple. She laughs. She hasn't laughed like that since your mother died. Your brother's raft returns. Not the raft itself, but a sliver of it, caught in the reeds where the stream bends. You pull it from the water. The fox carving is faded, but still visible. You leave it on his bed. That night, he says nothing. He just curls up next to it and sleeps deeply, for the first time in days. The village prepares differently now, not in fear, in readiness. Tools are checked, cloaks repaired, stores inventoried. Your father teaches you how to stack wood, so it breathes without breaking down. You never knew wood needed breath. Everything does, it seems. The vulva visits for the last time before snow. She brings nothing, says little, only sits by the fire and watches you all. When she leaves, she places a smooth stone on the hearth. To remember what held, she says. The goat begins growing its winter coat. Your brother weaves it a tiny blanket. It lasts one night before being eaten. You begin noticing the sky more. The stars return, slow and proud. The aurora dances some nights, pale green curtains that sway and vanish. You watch them with your sister, who wraps both of you in the same wool blanket. They're the bones of summer, she says, waving goodbye. You dream less now, or maybe you dream the same dream each night. Your family at the table, firelight flickering, the walls thick with warmth and voices. You don't question it. Let the dream remain. The first frost comes quietly. You wake to it, your breath visible, the goats snore misty in the early dark. The barley field shimmers, each blade kissed with silver. You touch one, let the cold shock you into full awareness. Your sister makes her strongest tonic yet. For blood that forgets how to be warm, she says. You drink it even though it burns your throat. Your brother places stones around the hearth in a perfect circle. Keeps the winter out, he declares. You let them be. Sometimes belief builds better walls than wood. One afternoon, as the wind rises, you walk to the cairn. The thatcher's wife, the fever girl, hunter. You place new stones on each. A red berry, a twist of dried thyme. You speak no words. You bow your head. You stay until the light fades. When you return, your father is smoking fish. Your sister is combing wool. Your brother is carving something new, a hand this time. Open. Palm up. You eat dinner slowly. Bread, broth, a sliver of cheese, it's enough. Everything now is enough. Later, lying by the fire, your sister hums one last tune before sleep. Your brother mumbles a spell, your father snores. And you think of how many nights you once counted by coughs, by cries, by silence. This one you count by breath. Winter doesn't knock in 873 AD. It drapes itself gently across your life, quiet and assured, like an old friend too tired to announce itself. The cold is no longer a threat, only a rhythm. You prepare not in panic, but in ritual. The goat is moved inside. The hearth is stacked high. Your sister sews with double layers of wool. Your brother collects the last of the dry pine cones. And your father spends a day mending the door with a patience born not of fear, but understanding. The world narrows in winter, not from cruelty, but from care. You rise before the sun now, not to gather, but to listen. The crack of ice near the stream, the moan of wind through the chimney hole. The sound of your own breath beside your sister's, measured, steady. The longhouse no longer echoes with emptiness. It resonates with life, tucked close. You learn new skills. How to spin thread from flax. How to scrape the edge of a knife with your thumb and feel its truth. Your sister teaches you how to catch warmth from a fire without leaning into it. Your father teaches you how to tell a good snowfall from a dangerous one by the weight of the air. There are days the sun doesn't fully rise, the light simply hovers, blue, thin, soft. On those days, you cook slowly, speak slowly, move gently. You learn how to fill hours with comfort rather than urgency. Your brother tells stories beside the fire now, exaggerated tales of foxes and rafts, of stone circles that whisper. You ask him if they're true. He shrugs. If you remember them, that's enough. Each week, your sister lays dried herbs in the corners of the longhouse. For sleep, she says. You no longer ask what kind. Sleep comes like fog now, cool, soft, wrapping around you with a touch so light it barely feels real. You dream of nothing and wake rested. Visitors are fewer now. When they come, they are welcomed like stars, each one a flicker of warmth against the snow. They speak of the sea, of the winds in the fjords, of other villages waking and closing like mouths. But their words are gentle, not heavy. Your father sits you down one evening, his fingers wrapped around a bowl of broth. This, he says, motioning to the longhouse, to the fire, to your sleeping brother, is what you carry forward. You nod, though you don't yet know what he means. Perhaps he doesn't either. Perhaps it's not something to understand, only to feel. As the snow deepens, the longhouse becomes its own world. You measure time by loaves of bread, by bundles of firewood, by the pace of your sister's needle. You are not restless, you are not waiting. You are wintering like everything else. And when the winds howl at night, you do not fear them. You do not flinch. You pull the blanket higher, breathe slower, and let the world outside pass like a ghost. You have survived the fever, but more than that, you have woven yourself back into life. Not with grand acts, not with triumph, but with quiet daily devotion to breath, to warmth, to story, to seed. And in the hush of the snow, as your sister hums once more, your brother's fox totem guards the door, and your father sharpens a tool by feel alone, you finally sleep the way only the living can, deep, still, and with peace.